Let's get started with water manipulation. A common power that's become a staple in both popular culture and society at large. Users of this power can create, shape, and manipulate water. Everyone knows what water is, so I don't think I should have. Water is an inorganic, transparent, tasteless, odorless, and nearly colorless chemical substance which constitutes the majority of Earth's hydrosphere and the fluids of all known living organisms. It's a substance that nothing can exist without, and that's not an understatement. The compound of hydrogen and oxygen atoms are responsible for nearly everything that humans and plants make use of, both directly and indirectly. In many cases, this power is usually portrayed with other elemental abilities in a given media. You know, with a rock, paper, scissors dynamic, where one power is superior to the other but being inferior to another power. Water is usually portrayed as an ability with medium levels of difficulty, meaning it has its simplistic uses that anyone who's granted the power can make use of, which is good news for inexperienced creators or those trying to find their footing in a chosen genre. But if you want to get down and slippery, one can get as creative and meta with this ability as the imagination allows. An essential compound that not only sparks life but maintains it as well, there isn't a recorded time in human history where water hasn't played a major role in the lives of people of all cultures. I mean, how could it not? With over 70% of the planet being covered in the substance, that wouldn't make sense. But that's the thing. 97% of that water is located in the oceans. A little over 2% exists in the form of ice and glaciers, and the remaining amount, which comes up to about 0.7%, but we can round that up to 1, makes up what would be considered fresh water. That's usually found in lakes or streams. But in order to tap into and use such an abundant resource, various forms of hydrology were created throughout history. Hydrology, coming from the Greek word hudor, meaning water, is the study of the movement, distribution, and quality of water throughout the earth. Hydrology has been the subject of studying engineering for millennia past. For example, about 4000 BC, the Nile was dammed to improve agricultural productivity of barren lands. This helped provide the Egyptians with easier access to water. That, and leading up to the modern advancements of today with underground plumbing and irrigation. While we know the process for how water is created or formed, in theory, we aren't completely sure of its origins, if it even has origins. Some theories persist that at the beginning of our planet, meteors and comets carrying the liquid brought it. And in others, it states that storm clouds gathered from the intense heat of a newly formed planet created rain. And that's just the scientific reasoning behind it. In legends and mythology from various cultures around the world, it's referred to as a primordial being that either spawned into existence when the planet did, or is something that's actually alive itself and either exists as its own entity or is represented by an aspect or a deity. Example of this would be our favorite Greek god of the oceans, Poseidon, or Neptune if you prefer the Roman version, I guess, who, while powerful in his own right, was moody and temperamental, and that would have an effect on his domain, causing travelers by water to be extra cautious when offering sacrifices or accomplishing tasks bidded by them beforehand to appease the emotional god. Fascinatingly enough, all humans are made of and actively contain the life-saving liquid. And if we liken many of these myths and allegories to our own existence, it's a known fact that humans can only survive about, 3 weeks without food, but at the most only 3 to 4 days without water. So we can incorporate water with the symbolism of circulation, purity, life, change, and emotion by associating the creative waters of the earth with the fluids found in our own body, i.e. blood. And from there is a great takeoff point to continue on, as water is seen in many works of fiction and legend as the element of emotion and change. And in my opinion, this is one of the easier powers to assign a symbolic or metaphorical meaning to. Even in popular culture, the one shape we see water portrayed as more than anything is the teardrop shape, or the droplet shape. Being a shape so synonymous with emotion, it's honestly the most simplistic way to look at it. I'll break it down. We all know that water in the form that most of us visualize does not have a clear shape. Not a definite one at least. And because of that, it allows the ultimate form of malleability, taking the form of whatever it's placed inside, on top of, or around. This state of change that water is able to take speaks poetically to the true nature of the element, whether it be solid, liquid, or gas. This means that arguably, water has the most use out of all other organisms, as it can be used in any state. This ties into the emotional aspect that water is thought to represent. Being as fluid and balanced as it appears to us, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to compare it to one's own emotions. But in society today, humans are taught things such as social etiquette, which is furthered by societal norms. We're taught to control and manage our impulses and most outwardly forms of expression in order to maintain the status quo in civilization. Metaphorically similar to how humans have created plumbing, dams, and irrigation canals to control the amount of water that would be beneficial for society. Well, at least at the correct moment in time. Emotions, just like water, are valuable and powerful tools, but they do need to be managed and distributed in proper ways. And that makes perfect sense to me. Think about it. Water has been shown to have power on both ends of the spectrum, from carving through solid stone, smothering air, and completely destabilizing regions via land erosion, to being used to sterilize and purify objects or people. And that's just the limited amount we have control over. So needless to say, without water, you can say goodbye to sodas, you can say goodbye to plants, building materials, and you can say goodbye to others like us too. And that works in the inverse as well. With too much water, say goodbye to sodas, say goodbye to plants. I'm pretty sure you get the idea. Users of this extremely popular ability are shown to be of the phlegmatic temperament, each instance having varying levels of introversion while remaining people-oriented, being kind, sensitive, and empathetic towards others. They display hidden depths of care and warmth and are oftentimes very sacrificial of themselves to the point of submission, especially when there are more dominant personalities present. Colors associated with this power are mainly blue, but very rarely clear, as you wouldn't be able to see that. Users are portrayed normally in supportive roles, meaning roles where they can play the medic or caretaker because they have such versatile abilities. And ironically enough, they sport high offense, defense, or intelligence. But don't let their patient demeanor fool you. When pushed too far, or maybe just being a side effect of the depth of their emotions, they have the potential to lash out in a bad way that seemingly makes them appear out of character. And if it gets to this point, it's already too late. Now, with the power to manipulate water comes the ability to attack, defend with, and control water, creating constructs out of water, and using water to manipulate other objects. Seems simple, right? But more gifted users are capable of locating outside sources of water, whether they be near or far, with water detection. And because of their connection to water, they're also able to manipulate the properties of the liquid, such as controlling the surface tension, giving the liquid a denser form with water solidification. This has the advantage of allowing them to traverse across the top of the water with water walking, or running if you want to be more specific. The user is capable of splitting apart minute to massive amounts of water for whatever task they can imagine with water separation. They're capable of producing their own source of water with water generation and control the amount of force the body of water they create or manipulate possesses with water pressure generation. And perhaps the most well-known ability of all, users are able to just straight up smother others in water, eliminating their ability to breathe with drowning. The most gifted users, however, are able to use water to assist or enhance whatever combative capabilities they possess with hydrokinetic combat. They're able to render themselves indistinguishable from surrounding water with hydrokinetic invisibility. They're also able to further manipulate the properties of water on such a level that they can render it clean and free from all contaminants with water purification, and use that water to heal themselves or others with healing water. Or they could take it a step further and have water replace damaged parts with hydrokinetic regeneration. They're also able to transform their physical form to that of water with water mimicry, and they can use water to gain insight via hydromancy and communicate and transfer long-distance information with hydrokinetic divination. And the best of the best, those who have mastered this ability to its fullest are capable of shifting their physical forms from one body of water to another instantly with a portal or by merging with the water via hydroportation. they're capable of propelling themselves through the air at high speeds with water via hydrokinetic flight. And an understated and dark twist of this ability lies in its potential to manipulate the human body because it's comprised of 70% water. This should allow the user a form of motor skill manipulation via blood manipulation. Or they could also strip other beings or materials of their natural hydration with water absorption. Whenever the user starts to weaken, becoming low on energy, they're able to increase their capabilities with water aura, which can stimulate other bodies of liquid in the surrounding area, or the inverse, meaning the user draws power from a singular body of water or surrounding liquids, which would grant them a form of water empowerment. The user can also shift this physical empowerment outward and transform anything they see into water, completely changing its molecular structure with water transmutation. And that's just a drop in the bucket when it comes to everything this power is capable of. There are dozens more variations, associations, and applications, but they usually consist of water working in tandem with other elements or powers, so we won't be covering that. For the sake of this video, I kept it strictly Mobley Dickley. Get it? Because whales live in water. Aside from that hilarious joke, water manipulation is one of the most versatile and powerful abilities ever incepted, just like the element it's based off of, but it still has its fair share of weaknesses, a main one being users cannot create water. They can only manipulate it from pre-existing sources. This seems to be a major drawback of an ability like this and tends to be the premise of many media in particular. The user might also be weak against electricity, intense cold, or intense heat. Sand and dirt have the potential to completely absorb any attack you throw at it, and not to mention, to be able to do some of the more complicated tricks that you might see on Avatar or something like that, you would need to train, which ultimately means that your natural limits determine how effective you would be with a power like this. And now, with all that out of the way, it's time to place this ability on the scale. Water manipulation, an ability that allows you to make a splash, no Magikarp. It still has its fair share of weaknesses that could leave you defenseless or in a bad way if you don't land on the overpowered side of things. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the Shey scaling system gives this power a soaking 8. Considering the fact that nearly every living being lives near a source of water and is comprised of water, even if you're a low tier user, you should still be relatively fine. Thanks for watching. You guys think of any more applications for this power? Jot it down in the comments section. Start a discussion. The index doesn't grow without you. I'll be back with an entirely new power, breakdown, and analysis pretty soon. Deuces.